Oh, no, I know.
Roll call, please.
No, you're right.
Barr, Giovanini,
Here.
Eckhoff,
Here.
Callis, Lee,
Here.
Hauser,
Here.
Bradshaw,
Here.
Cranford, Howard,
Here.
Willie.
Here.
Thank you. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. We can take a look at those.
I would like to remove item C for a question, please.
All right.
Do you want me to proceed with that question, or you want to?
Let's have a motion on the rest of the
Okay.
items. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to move the consent agenda without C.
Okay,
I second.
we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
So my question is the validity of the organization that is asking for the raffle license. Our raffle ordinance requires that it be an organization that's a nonprofit, or, I mean, I brought and Driscoll Motors would not be an eligible applicant for that,
What about the United Way?
but that's
it's
not
not the
who's
applicant.
completed the application.
No, she's absolutely right, I saw that too.
Did you?
She's saying
They're
that,
donating half of the proceeds to the United Way,
What?
and it's not a United Way raffle. If United Way applied, it would qualify.
correct.
So they need to come back and just do it for the United Way and work through Driscoll's to do the sales and stuff.
Good catch. I didn't think of it, I just saw United Way and walked right by it.
Not trying to be a stinker, but
No.
there is a license,
good
and if we
reason.
start
No, that's-
issuing them to anybody that
Yeah.
wants to come in, we're gonna have everybody at the door asking for a license.
Okay.
There's precedent.
So basically, we just have to send it back to them for reevaluation.
I'll ask them to reapply
Yeah,
as United Way doing the application. They can still, Driscoll's can still help sell the tickets and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Just gotta be a United Way raffle.
okay.
And Driscoll isn't, just for the record, Driscoll is not profiting on this at all. They were going to, 50% of the proceeds will go to the winner, and the other 50% of the proceeds goes to the charity.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, I'm not questioning
Yeah.
that, I just, there
but
is,
technically,
there is
they don't meet the
procedures.
statutory requirement for an applicant.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Item A, a letter of understanding from IDOT.
Yes, so this letter of understanding goes right along with the resolution we passed last time. This is all for IDOT's resurfacing project on Route 116 from Route 66 down to Deerfield. What the letter of understanding is that we're going to adhere to the master agreement, which I included a copy of that. And it goes, our cost of the traffic signal repair work is per that master agreement for those intersections by that percentage. If you remember, the resolution called for us appropriating $61,000 motor fuel tax fund. This letter of understanding is the same. That cost is the $61,000. So they need this and they need that resolution. Their plan is to have the letting on Friday.
I would motion acceptance of this resolution.
I'll second.
Are we doing the letter first and then the resolution, or do you?
The resolution was, we already did.
Yeah,
Not tonight, we did.
Oh, that's a different resolution,
Got
sorry.
it, sorry.
Yep.
I didn't hear the second.
okay.
That's me.
Okay.
Jamie, yeah. Okay, we have a motion by Kelly, seconded by Jamie. Roll call, please.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. The next is a resolution on the possibility of doing TIF 4.
Yeah, so this resolution came about by an opportunity that we have right now with the Even Glow being in obsolescence for its intended purpose. It is currently not-for-profit, so it's not on the tax rolls. It will go on the tax rolls January 1st, and in looking at different projects for that area, creating a TIF seems to be a good option for generating some development there. So this resolution provides for a feasibility study on the creation of that new TIF to determine, besides obsolescence, its blight, and to whether it will qualify by TIF statute. And if you'll notice on the back page, the area we're talking about is the area of Even Glow and the nursing home, and then the block directly east of it, so the 200 and 300 block of East Washington between Chicago and Locust Street, Chicago and Walnut. So I just wanted to say with the TIF, we're talking about the 200 and 300 blocks. Number of factors make the lodge obsolescence for its intended purpose. They were unable to meet codes for its purpose. That's why it's vacant. That there is one of the statutory requirements. PGAV is our consultant who is helping us do the study. Myself and Mr. Dance from the GLC EDC and PGAV were there last week doing a tour of the facility, and PGAV stayed around and they did some field work in that area just to take a look around and see and take photos of the area as they're doing the feasibility study. So there's limited opportunity for this project, but there has been some interest for housing for the property. However, I think the best course of action is to look at this as though there is no opportunity right now. And so in essence, what will happen is right now there is no property tax being generated by Even Glow. And if you look on this map, the properties to the east are all owned by Even Glow, with the exception of the Livingston County Historical Society, which owns the Jones House, which is also not for profit, and there's no property tax coming in for it as well. So what would happen if a TIF is created prior to January 1st, when that property goes back on the tax rolls, any new increment, which would be any increment, would go into a TIF fund, and then that TIF would be like our other TIFs, available to spur redevelopment, however that may come. This resolution also authorizes expenditures from this TIF for this study and preparation from future proceeds of the TIF. But it is, I just wanted to touch on a couple just TIF things that it is property tax, so it's not a separate property tax. It's what the owner of the Even Glow Lodge, and right now they're still operating the nursing home as tax exempt, so that would not fall into this. Only the property that's not being used is going back into the tax roll. So while I don't know what that's going to generate in TIF, it will be more than what it's generating right now, which is nothing. And when it goes private and there's development, then we have opportunities to either offer incentives to a developer to spend money to make different developments ourselves, or to conduct a plan. So the next step after this resolution, if the council so chooses to do this feasibility study, then that study would be done. It will get filed with the clerk, and then it will be on display for at least 10 days, and then this body then would have in front of it another resolution to set a public hearing date to discuss what that redevelopment plan is for this area. So as of right now, this resolution is simply authorizing a feasibility study to see if this area falls within the statutes. And I can tell you from talking with PGAV, initially we were thinking maybe of expanding the area a little bit further, just to look at blighted conditions. They felt this area was blighted enough that it's probably going to fit within that feasibility study just for itself, which I think is better for the project anyway, that, is contained, this TIF project would be contained to the development of this property and the vacant lands around it.
The
What does
study
the-
is feasibility.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
What-
not definitive.
What is blighted property, due to the surrounding property owners,
What is,
as far as their
what's
property
blighted?
values and stuff?
Well,
No, I know what blighted is, I
Yeah.
just wondered what it does to the property owners around there.
Oh, well, blighted property typically will, so one of the factors is if the EAV of surrounding properties is dropping for a number of years in a row, that would be one of the factors of what blighted property does to its surrounding. It brings down property values.
Okay, okay, I'm just trying to figure out how it affects the neighbors around them, is what I'm trying to
I'd say
is
it probably helps them as much as it hurts them, because the developer's probably gonna do something with it.
But doesn't it screw with their property value too when they go to sell their house?
I
Doesn't it?
In
mess
the
with-
past,
The idea of the TIF is to get rid of the blight.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Is to have funding
Yeah.
to improve the situation and help the property owner.
What this feasibility
right now
study is
doing
saying,
nothing.
is this area blighted enough to create a TIF district
Right.
to to put money into the TIF fund to spur development by reinvesting? So in essence, what happens is, rather than Heartland, the schools, the library, the rural fire protection districts, rather than any property tax money that they would regularly be getting, all of that new increment would go into the TIF district. So year by year, if the EAV in that area increases, then that increment of property tax would also increase, which would increase the size of the money that a TIF district would have to reinvest in the development of that property.
Okay, so will the feasibility study tell us whether or not
It's going to
it'll
tell us.
generate enough
it's
money
going
to
tell us-
repay the taxes that we're drawing away from Heartland and all those? and
So what
fire
this
districts?
feasibility study is going to do is tell us if we meet the statutory requirements to create a TIF district.
That's all.
That's
That's it.
all?
Yeah, and then some of the
Yes.
questions, Jerry, you're talking about will come when you do the TIF plan.
That would become-
That'll be at the
yeah,
next
with the TIF
hearing.
plan.
You've got to have a plan for what we're going to do in that district to improve things.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get to the nuts and bolts of how you might spend the money and what you might be able to do.
And we won't be able to make a plan unless we have a developer interested or
No,
something
you
like
can
that?
make,
No,
you
the
make a
plan
plan
will
up
be-
front.
the
We have
plan-
a
yeah,
plan
you-
for.
We're gonna be then faced with making a decision on what the plan is. And typically, that plan is going to be, it doesn't have to be something so specific to say, we're going to do commercial stores in this building. It's not that. It's going to be, are we going to develop it? The idea is, can it be residential? Can it be commercial?
It gives us a wide open field
Yeah,
to go into.
yeah.
That's where
what-
PGAV, they'll help with the plan,
Yeah.
obviously. They'll come up with a plan.
Sure.
Based on what they've done before for us, that's got a fairly broad scope to take into account anything that might happen. And
Think of-
so you
Well,
can spend the money
You
any way
think of
TIF would let you
TIF
spend.
one downtown, the things that we do with TIF one is we offer incentives to businesses through facade grants. We've done rent programs. We've used the money to improve the streets, and do other infrastructure work. So it's a pretty broad spectrum on what the investments can be.
I guess my other question was, how do we get the funding that we took from where we took it from for
Yep.
TIF? How do we get that back to where the people that were taking the Heartland and,
Uh-huh.
how do we get that back to them? And how long does it
So,
take?
Well,
so
We aren't
there's,
taking
there's,
anything yet.
yeah, so,
Well-
yeah, right.
We will be. It's-
they're getting nothing now.
Yeah.
Are you saying that by keeping it in the TIF, the money that is paid on those taxes goes back is like allocated for that area and isn't dispersed to a larger area, so therefore it can be used later specifically for that.
Correct.
That's
Okay.
basically.
That's exactly what it is, right.
Oh,
So
then
right now,
I
it's,
have a quick
right now it's
question.
generating $0 in property tax to any of our taxing bodies.
Correct.
January, it will start generating whatever the assessor assesses that vacant building at.
Okay.
And then, as development occurs, that valuation will increase. So if the vacant lands to the east develop into something, then that will increase that value, and all that will go into the TIF. And eventually, that returns to the taxing bodies when the TIF ends. The TIF is good for 23 years. Or if the project is completed and the council closes that TIF at whatever time that is, then that money goes back. So,
How many TIFs have we closed?
one, the TIF 3, yeah. And then TIF 1 and 2
Have been
are,
extended.
we have about 10 years left on them.
So,
For the study.
but those other taxing bodies have to agree to the TIF being
Correct.
created anyway.
Yes,
They
so,
have to
yeah.
sign off on
They're
it.
part
So
of this
that is
notice
part
of
of it as
hearing
well
procedure.
as,
Okay.
with this resolution, this will trigger a letter to those taxing bodies saying the council made a resolution to begin this TIF. I can tell you, I've spoken with the taxing bodies, and they believe that it's something that can be beneficial for a community, so. They're not getting anything right now, so.
Right.
Jamie?
Yes.
The yellow square here, you said, just to clarify, it has the Yost House, it's got Even Glow,
No, not the Yost.
which still has the nursing home.
Yep,
Not the Yost,
Oh,
Jones.
that's not the Yost, I'm sorry, Jones House,
Yep.
Jones House. The nursing home, which is on the north, and then the residential on the south, which is, we're not doing anything with. And then over here, this is like parking garages, correct?
Yes.
to the east.
To the east,
To the
yeah.
east,
Yeah, so
on the
there's,
bottom
there's,
right.
there's that old house that Even Glow bought that they were using for their construction headquarters. There is a vacant lot next to the Jones house. There's a parking lot that Even Glow has, and then there's another vacant lot. So, yeah, there is no
So-
other development over there.
Are these all zoned the same?
They are, well, I have to look at that, what they're,
I mean, like, and this is just me, I'm trying
Yeah.
to not be as ignorant on this.
Uh-huh.
Are they all taxed at the same rate? So, I mean, they're all different kinds of properties, so how
Everybody
does
in the
that work?
community has the same tax rate.
yeah.
Okay.
The only difference is what something's valued. So like they did this reassessment of commercial properties a year ago, commercial properties generally got a spike. And that had the effect of some residential properties on the average in town, maybe going down a little bit because the commercials were carrying more of it. But the tax rate is identical. It's based on $100 of EAV. And what it's zoned and what it's used for affects what that EAV is.
Well, then I guess, I didn't know, I guess what I'm really asking is, since we have 4 very, very different types of areas in those 2 blocks, this is gonna be very interesting, because it's not just all. And it's, like, tax-wise, it's gonna look really complex as far as what it's.
Well, depending on how the plan develops and what goes in there. Right now, none of it is being taxed.
And one would presume that if it's vacant with no use, it's not going to be taxed at as high a rate or valued at as high a rate as if it's got a use. And then that will generate the increment that the city needs to do whatever improvements are necessary to make that process successful. And at some point in time, it's on its own. And that's when all the taxing bodies see the benefit.
All right.
I think, I mean, maybe some of the questions that are being asked are really, from an economic development standpoint, this is a really smart thing for us to do.
It's very smart.
This property is not being utilized as it could be. We have a severe housing need in our community. There is a great potential that this could become housing for a lot of people that would live in our downtown area, putting businesses that they can walk to, lots of economic benefit to our downtown and
Right.
to our community. We don't know that that's what's gonna happen. It might not, nothing might happen, and the building might get torn down, which we don't wanna see that happen, I don't think.
Right.
And any improvement that we might make some contribution towards is gonna benefit everybody in the community. Sure, a developer might get a little, but that's how they're gonna come. If we can get this created and getting it on the rolls before the increment happens is an even smarter move, because we have the potential to get more money into the fund, which currently the other organizations or other bodies aren't getting anything, so, and that, you know, that
The fact, I mean, this comes under, in legal terms, a no-brainer. But,
yeah.
You went to law school for
yeah,
that,
that
right?
was law school, learned that. But in reality, it's gonna take a lot of increment to develop that.
It
That
is.
is in a tip for a reason. It takes a lot of money to make it economically feasible, if it ever can be. Right now, you know, it's maybe a pipe dream, I don't know, but it gives it a chance.
Which is why that you pass the resolution now, because it isn't collecting anything, so anything it will collect will be increment. And on top of that, let's just say no development occurs, or we say this wasn't really a project we decided to do, you're out nothing, because then that just goes, any increment then just goes back to the taxing bodies. They would get exactly what they were going to get.
And we got our cost recouped, then they go back.
And minus our cost recouping. But yeah, it's come January 1, if later we decided, hey, we should do a TIF in this area, we're starting at a baseline much higher.
Is it possible to get it all accomplished in that time frame?
It is, yes. I have a schedule from PGAV to make that happen. It'll be at the end of the year,
When
and
the
potential
first-
of a special meeting, but
When the
it
first
happened.
TIFs were approved, I was around then, and I did all the ordinances, and we didn't have a PGAV to help us. And we approved those like the day prior to the final deadline to get those TIFs approved. Over at Old City Hall, had the public hearings, had the vote, filed the ordinances the next day, and got in under the wire. But it was just, and that was partly, it was partly because of the sales tax part of the TIF, and which turned out not to be all they promised.
And what was the cost of the feasibility study? I forgot.
So we have, this is all part of PGAV's
Okay.
plan with us that was already approved. I think it was
Yeah.
30,000, something right there.
But again, it's, as been said, it's really a no-brainer. This is where we need to go. So,
I would motion acceptance of resolution 2024-R007.
One second.
motion by Kelly, seconded by Jerry. Roll call, please.
Bill, are you going to vote this one? Are you gonna vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you felt like you weren't here long enough, so.
Oh, no,
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Callis,
yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. Chris,
I was on first.
coming up to give us a little insight on synthetic ice. He's always been pretty cool, so you might as well show off a little.
I don't know about that. Excuse me. We've been having conversations about converting our ice rink into a synthetic rink. And we have solicited prices from 3 companies that are, do commercial rinks like we would need. Quick Rink is out of Minnesota. Excuse me. And their cost was $60,000 with delivery. Extra Ice is out of Boston. And to get new panels, it was $114,359 plus shipping. And then they do have reconditioned panels that they would sell to us for the quantity we needed was going to be $85,000 plus delivery. And then Gleiss, it's an international company, but in the U.S. they're based out of Colorado, and their price was $95,000 plus delivery for new panels. So we would recommend using the Quick Rink at the amount of $60,000.
Is Quick Rink giving us new panels or?
Brand new.
Cool.
They're pretty much the same material, it's just different size of panels. amongst the vendors.
Okay.
Quick Rink provides a 4x8 panel, where the others are more of a 3x6. So
But that includes the delivery too, correct?
Yeah.
the Quick Rink price includes delivery. Correct.
So what of our existing, is there anything that you would be using that we have?
Yeah, since we have to have boards, so what we're gonna do is strip down the big wood structure we have, get it down on the ground, level it up that way. We'd still have to use that because we have to have the boards up so people don't go.
Off into the office.
Yeah. The nice thing with the synthetic is you don't have to be level one direction, so if it follows the slope of the parking lot, we're okay. It just can't be dual pitched, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So,
Have you spoken with communities that have this to get some feedback on, do the skaters like it? Is it, you know?
well, just from my experience with, my son plays
Sure.
hockey
Yeah,
and seeing in different rinks that they use for practices and stuff. Quick Rink does the rental units where they go to like Chicago in the Midwest and set them up for, just seasonal type of thing. So I have not spoken with any communities that use it. I'm just kind of gauging off what I've seen through my own experience.
that's good too.
Yeah,
One criticism I've heard of the synthetic ice is that it wears out skates faster.
it does dull the blades quicker.
Those
But
blades.
there are skates,
Right,
so, I mean, for the most part.
right. And well, that's for another conversation. If we have
Yeah.
a sharpener, we could
Right.
provide sharpening services if someone had their own skates and wanted to.
Well, and you can get, there's a hand sharp skates that would do just well, just fine.
Yeah. Our machine we have is pretty neat. You put the right disc in for the pitch you're looking for on the blade, and you just set it on there and it grinds it automatic. So,
Chris, you said your son has skated on synthetic ice.
correct.
Does he see any difference? How much difference does he see between real ice and synthetic ice?
It's-
Negligible?
It's different, but I mean, it's not, he didn't mind it when he was playing on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and some NHL teams use it for their practices. They have side rooms. A lot of the rinks that we went to, if they had like 3 main rinks and they would have like a side rink that had synthetic ice on it. And I would assume it's just because of the maintenance end of trying to keep 3 rinks going.
It's gonna work for 90 days or more, and what we have is.
Expand our,
Yeah.
What are the dimensions
So one
on
of
it
the
again,
other-
Chris?
I'm sorry.
What are the dimensions on it again?
So we're doing 90 by 55.
Okay.
And what did we have last year?
Same thing, we had
It'll be
that's
the
the
same.
size of our
Yeah.
rink, yeah.
Thank you.
What do you do if it, like, the snow and the rain and all that? Is you just squeegee it off? Or?
Pretty much. So at the end of the boards, we're gonna have to have openings. If we pitch it, a lot of it should run.
Just drain off?
But you would clean it with snow shovels and during the winter.
So
No,
do we
you
sell
can't.
our Zamboni?
Yeah, you don't get a Zamboni.
What,
Don't we have some?
Sure, we have maintenance equipment,
So we wouldn't need that anymore?
right.
Well, there's,
A little bit.
is there an
I think,
avenue,
recoup
have you,
some of
anybody
it.
looked at an avenue to sell off
Sounds
the
like a gov
ice
deal deal.
parts of our?
We can, but as of right now, we still need the boards. So
yeah.
we could either sell off just the parts and pieces or sell it as a package.
I see.
And sometimes parts are worth more than the whole anyhow.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
What's the lead time for that, Chris?
2 to 3 weeks from the order. Yeah, the other folks were waiting for containers to come in from overseas before they could ship.
So that's doable this year.
Correct.
yes.
yay.
So in also looking in that, one of the questions was how was the ice, in the research that I had done as well. Most places say that ice is slower than real ice. What we're doing, we're going in small circles out there anyway. I mean, we're not running races and things like that. I think it'll be perfect for what we're trying to accomplish.
No figure skating competition.
Slow ice is much easier to learn how to skate on too. so.
Yeah.
The
Well,
little kids.
maybe,
speed
yeah.
skating.
That I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing you can probably still slip.
Okay.
But, and
Won't be
then
quite
the
as
other
wet.
part was, we'd also discussed the warranties, and the quick rink was, that one was
5 years.
5 years, yep, and the extra ice was 12 years. And the other one, the Gleis, was 6 years as well, 6 years.
Still money ahead at the 5 years.
Yeah, but, yeah, you're still.
And you
Yeah,
flip
but
these over
it's
and.
twice as much, so.
So they all of the manufacturers say you can get, for what we're doing, for not using heavy start-stop, speed skating type hockey practice on them, that you can get 10 to 15 years out of a side, and then you flip them over and you get the same. So whether that actually holds up to be exactly right or not, I don't know. I know that, at least as far as the surface goes, with our regular ice, you know, we had to grind off of it, and, you know, when you get water, you get little pock marks in it too. So we never ever really had perfectly smooth NHL style of ice anyway. But this would give us an even surface, and it is pretty interesting to see you're running real skates over a plastic type of surface, and it holds it.
But the big thing from our standpoint is we're going to get more time for the citizens to use it, so.
Plus any other events like that we have, say we want to do something in the summer, we can set up an ice rink and have an event. And
Yep.
After the initial setup, will it be easier to set it up after that than the other one was, probably?
Oh, it's going to be easier, without a
A
doubt.
lot less time.
Yeah, because, well, you're dependent so much on the air temps and you're always fighting the direct sun.
Sure.
It will be, to answer your question, Jamie, it will be a lot less maintenance as far as day to day for us, because it was 3 hours a day, easy. By the time you had to add water and Zamboni, shovel the snow off of it,
I think that's also a no-brainer.
Yeah.
so.
I know it's not really part of this discussion, but I think we should consider having a rental fee for the skates, because we are providing a large service with a lot of people working, and that's just my 2 cents, and not for this conversation. But.
Okay.
I move we accept the Quick Rink of Minnesota's bid for ice rink.
I'll second.
Motion by John and seconded by Jason. Roll call, please.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Jovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Thank you. I believe Liz has progress coming up for an introduction.
Good evening, Council. I wanted to take a minute. In the back of your packet, there was a whole bunch of papers stapled together from my department. There's one that has the eagle on the top of it. I had to search to find it, so that's why I just wanted to let you know what we would be referring to, yeah. So to start this, I just wanted to introduce this evening our new event coordinator for the Eagle Theater, Jess Agola. Jess is very new to her position. Her first day was August 19th, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about yourself. She drew up her 3-month goals and has a calendar of events here on the back as well for October. So with that, I'll let Jessica take over.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank Jim and Liz for inviting me to your meeting today. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, so you're probably wondering, why am I in Illinois? But I actually married my husband last September, and I have been here for about 3 years now, so I'm getting used to the snow, I'm getting used to the heat. That's crazy enough. But ultimately, I decided to join being the event coordinator after having stepped down for working for the Boys and Girls Club. I obtained my master's degree in strategic management, and I wanted to find a suitable role where I can challenge myself and pursue my aspirations without feeling limited or constricted. And so when the event coordinator position popped up, I was just like, I gotta give it a shot. I gotta see what happens, how I can grow, and what I can do to challenge myself to be more acclimated and involved in the community. So following my goals for the next 3 months into the next year, my overall goal is just to create a strong client-focused presence by in making sure I deliver exceptional customer service, enhancing visibility to the venue with marketing, as well as building and maintaining relationships with the public and the community. And all I ultimately want to do with the Eagle is just revitalize the theater, having many shows, many events happen there, having people book events there so that people can see that there's actually things that happen on site and that they have every access to using it, as well as renting the facility from us. So that's pretty much it that I had to say today, and I just want to say thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
She does already have some events booked there,
Yes,
so.
there's a couple of events for October, so.
She's definitely hit the ground running, so we're very lucky to have her in our department. Thank you, council.
Thank you. Actually, visiting at the office, I find that everybody likes this young lady and thinks that she's going to be a real motivator to get activities at the Eagle. So welcome and thank you. All right, moving on. Finance Committee report. Kelly.
That's me. I won't read the report because everybody's
Yeah.
got it in front of them, and honestly, pretty much every agenda item that we have will now be an agenda item here on our council session, but I just want to say, honestly, I think it was one of the best council meeting, or committee meetings we've had in a long time. It was long, but we had a lot of great discussion, which you'll see over the subjects that are coming before us soon, and yeah, that's about it.
Well, it was a good meeting. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And out of that meeting, let's move right into the Centennial Plaza budget.
Yes, so in that Finance Committee meeting, we discussed PGAV had given us proposed estimated budget on Centennial Plaza. You will notice in your packets, there is a Route 66 photo. And in that photo, next is a concept site plan and also a visual of Centennial Plaza, a concept. And so by the time that they got completed with that site plan, which would involve resurfacing, adding pavers, adding some artificial grass in there, the structure, a cantilevered structure to cover the Waldmeyer yacht, a large sign, and just some infrastructure, the lighting, infrastructure work. By the time that was completed, they had their budget at 1.9, their estimate was 1.9 million. We felt there was some things, that also included putting all the electricity underground. We felt that there were some things we were able to eliminate, such as that, and get this budget down. At the committee meeting, the discussion was, we discussed $1.5 million and for the project. We felt some of the main parts of this plan are the cover for the Waldmeyer Road yacht, that having it a very nice looking design that extends out far enough to where people can be seated underneath there as well to provide some shade or cover from the elements, and as well as the artificial grass and the seating out there for the community. I think it was important that we noted this project, while it would assist us with tourism goals for the 100th anniversary, it will be with us much longer, and it would be a great place for the public and the local community here just to gather, to be in that space. So while that budget came in at 1.5, that was what the committee recommended. A big chunk of that, just to make clear, was $450,000, a little more than that, for what PGAV estimated for the cantilevered structure over the Waldmeyer Road yacht. All a guess, we don't really know exactly what that would cost. We're hoping that we can come up with something even less expensive than that. In addition to that budget, there are a couple grant opportunities still out there. We put in for one with the Office of Tourism for the sign that you see on this photo, the Route 66 sign. well, that's not really a real sign. That might have to be created, but we put in for a grant for $75,000 for that. And there will be a couple more grants between now and the 100th that we'll apply for as well, that we're hoping that we can get maybe a couple $100,000 for this project. So with that being said, that it was our recommendation from staff that the council approve the $1.5 million project for Centennial Plaza.
There also would be TIF funds. And
It is in a TIF. It is falls within the guidelines of a park. So
Right.
yes, it would definitely be within that TIF availability. And so the idea would be to pay for it with TIF funds. If we're paying for it all ourselves without any grants, to finance that over a number of years. That way our TIF is still available for other projects.
Yes.
From past experience, I can tell you that the bus cover is an expensive structure. I mean, steel is expensive today, and I don't know when we'll get around to doing it, but it's complicated, and it's an expensive structure.
Yes.
I happened to be in Bloomington today. My way down, I was looking at there's an old drive-in in Lexington where the drive-in portico is still standing. If that could be
Repurposed.
refurbished, reused, I mean, it would be a part of Old 66. But I don't know. There'd probably have to be some negotiating that went on. Lexington or whoever owns whoever owns the property.
Worth exploring.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think all those ideas are on the table for the project. For
So
sure.
the metal structure would have a metal roof too then? Is that what they
Yes.
planned for? So we talked about Lot 59 at one point with those plastic awning things, you know? They're like a tent, but they're like a hard plastic thing. Is that something that's feasible for that project or not? With a steel frame or aluminum frame or?
Yeah, and I think
Would that be cheaper?
the idea was for this project to really look Route 66.
To make it look, yeah, I get
Yeah.
you, yeah. Have that 50s, 60s look, yeah.
Yep.
Well, if you have a chance, drive by Lexington and look at that structure. I think with a little creativity, it could fly. I haven't measured anything to see but it looks big enough. Might have to.
Make it higher, but yeah.
That could be taken care of.
One thing that we talked about, I asked the question at the finance, because it sounds like a really lot of money. But in comparison, from a residence standpoint, we spent over $3 million on the splash pad area, which is a recent project that had a lot of money involved. And so this would be half of that cost. And so when you look at that perspective, in my eyes anyway, it seems more palatable, because it will be a big attraction to our downtown.
Oh, yeah. And it'll benefit everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah. It's not for tourism as much as it is for the local people, too.
Unlike the
We're all
splash
for
pad,
that.
this is 12 months project here, too.
Pardon me?
This is a 12-month deal
Right.
with the.
Yeah.
Right.
Versus the splash pad, which is
Right.
3 months.
I would motion approval of the $1.5 million budget. And of course, that doesn't mean we spend that much.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that
I
we
second that.
Stay under that.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Barb. Roll call, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw. Yes. Howard.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Joe Beninny.
Yes.
Echo.
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving back on to more interesting things. Ambulance purchase and part-time paramedic pay. I think Jake is ready to give us some more insights.
Tonight, council, I come before you. Last week, I met with the finance committee and discussed that there has become an immediate need to address a more efficient replacement program for our ambulance fleet. This immediate need has been driven by the increase in call volume that includes emergency incidents and transfers, as well as the expanded period to actually receive an ambulance once ordered. As a result of the increase in call volume, the ambulance apparatus fleet's mileage has begun to climb, which in turn has driven the need to start the replacement process immediately. In addition to the increase in mileage, the time frame of receiving a new or remounted ambulance has gone from 6 to 8 months to now to 24 to 30 months. To address these issues and implement a more efficient replacement program for our ambulances to ensure vehicles are safe and operable for the patients that we transport, I come tonight to seek the City Council's approval for the following. First, to purchase an ambulance immediately. There has become an opportunity from a company that we do utilize to buy ambulances through the HGAC program, where another municipality dropped out of their order, which allows us to jump into their order and receive the ambulance in April. The second thing would be that next fiscal year we order a remount of Medic 1, which is our oldest, newest ambulance, which wouldn't be received until 2027-28 fiscal year budget. When you do a remount, it takes about 2 to 2.5 years. So if we made that order during the new fiscal year next year, we wouldn't receive it for another 2 years. I did present you guys with information, a new letter with some additional information that I received on late Friday afternoon regarding the overall cost. I will make note it is different than what I had presented to Finance Committee. Collectively, let me find my notes here. With the two options that I presented tonight, collectively it's $14,826 less than what the package I presented at council or committee meeting last Thursday. The new ambulance, there was an increase, and the only reason there was an increase in what I presented last week, there was a piece of equipment that we were hoping to be able to utilize that we could grab from one ambulance and move it over to another. The further we looked at that, that wasn't going to be a viable long-term solution. So we opted to go ahead and put that piece of equipment on the new ambulance versus using an older piece of equipment. So that did increase the cost I presented last week from $340 to $355,024. On the flip side of that, though, because we are looking at this as a package deal, the remount of Medic 1 I had presented for $300,000. They're going to go ahead and they would lock in that price as it is now versus paying the price that would be in 2.5 years at $270,150, which is significantly less than what I had presented at committee. So like I said, the total package together is $14,826 less than what I had originally presented to the committee. So are there any questions regarding the need for this or any questions on what a remount is for an ambulance?
Yeah, what's the remount procedure?
So with a remount, what they do, they'll take a current ambulance and they'll replace the chassis, and then they reutilize the box on the ambulance, and they'll go through and they'll strip all the electrical and the lights, and they'll put brand new lights and electrical on it. But basically, they reuse the body of the actual ambulance. You can typically do that one time. So because it is significantly less than a new ambulance, if we were to move forward with the purchase tonight, we would be able to do that at least 3 times with 3 of our ambulances in the future. So I'd like to hope to see that we do our replacement program every 3 to 4 years once we get after this first wave. And those next 3 times would be a remount versus buying a new one.
And then they'll come in on time instead of being behind.
Yeah.
What's the lead time?
For a new one or for a remount?
Remount.
Remount is 2 years, 2 to 2.5 years, same as a actual getting a new one. The weird part was, so when we just bought a fire truck through the Rural Fire Protection District, and the issue was actually getting the actual chassis. That was the hang up. Now with ambulances, it's not the chassis you're waiting for, it's all the other components. So everything's kind of going back and forth, but at the end of it, everything has an expanded time period. So 2 to 2.5 years is the unfortunate thing that has just arisen where we're going to have to battle with. So
taking advantage of the one that somebody else dropped out on?
Correct, yes.
We would get one in next year.
Yes, correct.
So we're being asked to vote on essentially two different purchases. Okay, because I'm reading through our minutes and we didn't really, that's not how it's stated in our minutes from Finance Council or Committee. So I just wanted to be sure I was following this right.
John?
No.
Yeah, that commitment to the remount locks in that lower price
Right.
if we do that now.
Any other questions?
I move we accept.
Second.
Motion by John, seconded by Jerry, to accept the proposal. Roll call, please.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Willie.
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
And one thing, council, I just want to publicly say this. We're going to be doing it through the HGAC buyers program that the city is a part of, and that allows us to follow the procurement rules. So that's why, since we're a part of that group, that's why we're able to go ahead and take advantage of the ambulance that's currently available. If we didn't utilize the HGAC program, we would have to go out to bid for something like that. So just wanted to clarify that we are using the program that we've been a part of for a while, so that allows us to utilize that for the procurement process.
All right. Don't leave, Jake. You got more to talk about.
The other part of the discussion I had with Finance Committee the other night was our ongoing struggle to be able to recruit and retain part-time paramedics. Last year during the budget process, we had implemented what we call a flex shift. And what the flex shift is staffing the third ambulance during our peak hours of our call volume. That could be driven either by transfers or 911. We utilize our data to navigate when those hours are. And right now that's during the weekday nights and the weekends. So at that time budget process, Jim and the council gave me approval within my budget to be able to utilize full-time on utilizing overtime, as well as utilizing part-time EMS personnel to fill that third ambulance. That was a part in a process to help us with the ongoing struggle of having adequate resources to cover everything. So we implemented that back when the budget was approved, and it started off very successful. But since then, we've ran into a couple of issues where it's become a struggle to staff. One, our full-time is working a lot of hours due to time off, covering for time off to meet our minimum manning. Our call volume is significantly increased. So in the end, our personnel are getting very burnt out. So the flex shift, as we call it, was voluntarily. No one's forced for it. So we haven't had very many full-time personnel signing up for that shift. So the other component of that is utilizing our part-time personnel. There is a large chunk of our original part-time personnel that have gone on to be full-time with us now. So they're no longer part of the part-time roster that we had. In the meantime, we've tried to recruit additional part-time personnel, but the issue we're running into is our salary structure for them was not very competitive compared to our local agencies surrounding us. We pay currently part-time paramedics $17 an hour. Our competitors were anywhere from $23 to $27 an hour. So I met with the Finance Committee and discussed different options, and what was proposed at that point in time was to come before council tonight to ask that our part-time paramedics hourly rate is raised to $24 an hour. So that way at least gives us an opportunity to try to be competitive with our surrounding EMS agencies to hopefully recruit more part-time personnel, which in return would help us fill the flex shift. Are there any questions from the City Council regarding the part-time paramedic program?
How will it affect your budget?
What's that?
How will it affect your budget?
This year it won't hurt it because we weren't utilizing the money that was allocated for the flex shift between the full-time and part-time, or we're using it sparingly. So for this year, it will help cover that cost.
Is there a residence mileage placed on them?
Yeah, it's not for part-time personnel. There are for full-time personnel. Our full-time personnel are 20 miles from the border of the city limits, but for our part-time personnel, there is not.
And as Jake alluded to, their volume of business is growing at a greater rate, especially the transfers. and that's where we need the paramedics, so, again, it's a situation, it's more of a have-to than anything else, so, and, I think the staff over there has done a tremendous job in keeping up with all the call volume they've gone through. So we want to do all we can to support them and make their lives a little easier if we can.
How's the cash flow been for you?
What's that?
How's the cash flow been for you?
Cash flow? It's for the transfers. It's been pretty steady. The one thing that we did run into when we switched into the new billing company, when that company bought out the other one, they had to transfer all of their documentation and coding and permissions with all the insurance companies. So there was a delay for a little bit as far as the cash flow coming in for all billing services. But I would say probably in June it started to catch up and we started to see the money recruit back in. So we're starting to see all that filter in. And at this point in time, correct me if I'm wrong, but we should be on trajectory of what we were projecting for our revenue stream for the budget. So.
Yeah, we're definitely ahead of, we projected a deficit at this point and we have not hit a deficit yet.
Frank, at our finance meeting, Jim gave us a quick synopsis of the revenues and expenses to date through August, and it's about $100,000 above what was expected through August. We're in the positive. So, much better news than we had previously had about ambulance services.
Yeah. Good, Jake.
Any other questions for Jake?
Need a
If not,
motion?
we need a motion.
I make the motion. Accept.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by John Willett. Roll call, please.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Council.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. Now, we're going to have to hear from Gary about some pickleball, we hope.
Good evening, council. I've been in contact with Farnsworth Group and a couple other vendors regarding pickleball courts, outside pickleball courts, for the area around the rec center where the current splash pad is there that doesn't function or doesn't get operated currently. So we look to repurpose that area into a pickleball court area and enter into agreement with Farnsworth Group to assess that site, look at preliminary design, schematics, and present back to us what that looks like for a pickleball court complex, minimally 4 courts and up to potentially as many as 6 courts for that area that we could utilize. Right there next to the rec center, we do have the 4 courts at Humiston Park. They do get utilized somewhat, but our true pickleball players don't like using that court and want something more appropriate for their skill level, I guess, is a good way to put it. It's nice recreationally, but they get pretty competitive, as some pickleball players can get, and it doesn't provide a true bounce. And it's plastic ball on a plastic court that allows it to skid. So Farnsworth would look at appropriate surfaces for a competitive pickleball courts in that area, as well as allowing a true pickleball court complex. Their proposal is to enter an agreement for $5,000 to do that, and they would begin that later this month, and if approved, and be able to provide us with some schematics within a few months.
The west sun is gonna really be hot there.
Pardon me?
The west sun beating on that, something gonna be done about that. Make the sun move, or?
Yeah. Well, pretty much anywhere we go, there will be some benches in there that will have canopy covers that we're looking at that provide some shade. It also would allow a lot of airflow through that area. So it's not a lot, but enough of a breeze to provide some comfort, but not enough to affect a pickleball, which is
It's
Yeah.
probably almost exactly where the original tennis courts at the high school were, for those who remember where the tennis courts were before the rec center was built. They were on that end of the parking lot that was out there, gravel at the time, and they faced east-west, or they, there was 4 courts across that went, so it's probably almost exactly where that was at that time. I spent a lot of days there when I
What are
was
your
growing
plans
up.
for the splash pad?
For that was splash pad?
Yeah.
Well, we would repurpose this area into that. Right now, we haven't used it this year, and I don't know that it was used last year either. The system in that is just a free flow of water, and I think the last bills I saw of that was the last season that was operational went through water bill of about $10,000 for that season.
Doesn't circulate.
We did look at lots of places. I mean, Gary wasn't necessarily involved at that time, but, the pickleballers and I explored numerous. I mean, there's downsides to this spot, but there's bathrooms, there's parking, it's accessible to the indoor area.
What about the noise to the residents?
But it's way farther away than any of the other spots we looked at from residential people.
I'm a resident in that area.
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah.
asked.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably far enough away.
And we could put up
the-
landscaping around that to help with that.
It'll give you shade too.
I would motion that we accept Farnsworth study, schematic, whatever you want to call it.
I second.
Schematic designs,
Be a TIF 1 project.
TIF 1 project, yes.
How did All Weather think about that area?
They came up and assessed the area
Right.
and looked at it
Yeah.
and realized it was more than they wanted, but they didn't have any qualms with that area.
Yeah.
It was nothing that they went, no, you're out of your gourd.
Yeah,
So, to use a fall term.
yeah.
But no, they were on board with that area.
Okay, thanks. We had a motion from Kelly and a second from Barb. Roll call, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Giovanini,
No.
Eckhoff,
Yes,
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Thanks, Gary. Moving on, new ordinance on fixing salaries for alderman, clerk, treasurer, and mayor.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can address it, sure.
Yeah.
So this, when I got to, going back, we found an ordinance from 2015 that addressed the salaries, but it put them the same as what they were. They weren't changed. I mean, going back, as far as I had on ledgers, I never saw any changes in our salaries for mayor, alderman, clerk, and treasurer. From the finance committee meeting, some suggestions were made. Currently, aldermen receive compensation of $2,185 per year, and that the recommendation was to change that to $3,500 per year. The clerk presently is $4,052 a year. The recommendation was to change that to $6,000 a year. Treasurer, $6,753 was recommended to be $7,500. And the mayor is currently at $11,735. Recommendation was to go to $14,000. So we also did talk about, and you'll notice it's not in this ordinance, we talked about setting an annual increase. What we looked at is, one of the examples was Waterloo that was given that had that annual increase. What we found was that the statute says, the salaries can neither be increased nor decreased during the term of an alderman or an elected. I guess it would be the easiest for all of these. So Alan and I were doing some research on it, and we never came to a hard and fast conclusion that what Waterloo did was sound and in our best interest to do. And so what we did was we drafted this ordinance without an increase at this point to give us more time to research that and to see if we can then come back with another ordinance. This would at least cover those terms up through 2029. And so those that are being elected in 2025, this would take effect for. Those that will be elected in 2027, that would be when adjustments would be made for those salaries. And in 2027 would just be aldermen, half of the aldermen. So they would remain at the current salary until that time. So, like I said, at this point, those were the recommendations from the Finance Committee minus the annual increase, so.
If I can just, at our meeting that we had last week, I had done some of my own research on comparables, and Jim had done some too. We had a few similar communities. I targeted communities that were the same around our population, anywhere from 9,500 to 12,000. You know, if you take our correctional center population out of our population, anyway, most communities were at 4,000 or more. I mean, there were some that were paying for their alderman positions. Most were paying upwards of $7,000 for positions. So that's kind of where we arrived at what, you know, we tried to not go extremely over what we are getting now, because it does seem like a large increase. But I started at 18 years ago at $2,000, so I've had one increase of $185 in that time period, and I'm not doing it for the money by any means. But if we want to attract individuals to run for public office, it is a time commitment, and it's not that we have to incentivize, but I think it's important that we recognize that perhaps there does need to be more compensation, and it wouldn't affect me because I'm not up for election, but those of us who aren't wouldn't get any change at this time. So statute doesn't allow us to vote for ourselves for an increase. So I mean, that's kind of the theory behind, I think. Yes. I mean, it was a good conversation that we had about changing, because it's difficult to give yourself an increase.
Mm-hmm.
I would just add to Kelly's study, my study, we only had one city that overlapped, and we didn't actually have the numbers in my study for that city. But my study showed, when I added up all of ours, there was one community that was making a little bit less than what this council is making now, but the average was $6,000 is what communities were paying. So, and I had a study group of, I think, 10.
Yeah, the comps we had the other night were much higher than what we're even anywhere near.
Yeah, and the group that I used were based on the population and trying to fit as close to EAVs as Pontiac has, and there are comps that we've used regularly for other issues within the city.
Well, in the 18 to 24 years since there have been increases, you know, it's more than due.
Right.
So I think that what the Finance Committee came up with is a very fair and reasonable option. So I think we should, you know, approve it. But
I'd like to make note, if we could, on section 2, 3, and 4, that the dates be changed commencing May 1st
Oh, you didn't change the year.
2015.
It'll be 2025.
Oh,
I thought I was gonna get that.
2, 3, and 4.
For 18 years.
So if we could change those dates, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Section 1, they did good.
You know what, and even as you were saying that, I was looking at those thinking, what's wrong with that year? It looks like.
When I saw that, I thought, wait a minute.
with the date changes
Yes, changing the
made,
2015 to 2029, or 2025.
Okay.
do we have a motion?
I'd so move that we accept the ordinance 2024-0-026.
Motion by Mr. Callis,
I'll second.
seconded by Kelly. Roll call, please.
Willie?
No.
Jovenini,
No.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Thank you. That covers the regular agenda. It calls for the mayor's comments, and I wrote out a whole bunch. And I actually want to read this into the record, because I'm excited about where we're headed. I think we've got a lot of great ideas, fresh ideas, programs. I think we could see this community really grow and benefit from everything we're doing. But as with most things, we come together, we share ideas, and, you know, we're looking for the future. We're looking for success. And it's not going to happen tomorrow or overnight. You know, we just got to keep working together. And the council over the last 10, 12 years has done a really good job. I can't say that I've ever had anybody that didn't go after their position and do their job. You know, so I've really been thrilled. And with the participation and us working together, we're going to get more participation from our community, our citizens, our friends, our neighbors. They're all going to jump onto the bandwagon. They're going to cheer on our successes. We may stumble every once in a while, but we don't really stumble that often. So, and it's important that we prioritize our improvements. And, you know, we've had a big agenda tonight, but the Route 60, or the Centennial Plaza, Route 66, you know, we're only a year and a half away from that. So that has to be a high priority. And the substation, I think everybody knows that's a high priority as far as I'm concerned. I want to see that up and running here in the next year, hopefully. And, you know, the Eagle Theater, we're finally getting some action there. I think everybody's done a great job. I'm enthused. I'd like to see us all just keep at the grindstone, as it were. So we want to keep going. And I'd like everybody here to know that your work has been appreciated. You know, I know we don't always get the slap on the back or anything like that. I get more phone calls telling me what we're doing wrong than what we're doing right. But we're doing a lot right, too. So anyhow, that's my comments for the night. City Council comments. Bill?
Yes, sir. After 40-plus years on the council, I've decided not to run this next election. Health has caused me to rethink where I'm going in the next few years. So over 40-plus years, time for some new blood, maybe. And I hate to let this salary increase stand in my way, but I'm still going.
You don't want to break Frank's record?
No.
Well,
I just want to let it known prior to the election, of course.
well, you have time to change your mind if
Yeah, thank
things
you.
change. But, you know, we certainly appreciate it. I was going to comment that, you know, you're only 17 years shy of Frank's record, you know, I mean.
Well, the reason I'm late tonight was because I had a little mishap getting in my car.
Oh,
So if there was any question about it, got answered.
okay.
And not, it's been enjoyable, though. I mean, I'm going to be on until April anyway.
Well, you've certainly been the stalwart of the council for many years. And look, you trained that city administrator we just got rid of a couple of years ago, you know, and you got this one working pretty good. You know.
I saw a lot of changes in the city,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, your hard work has been well documented, and we appreciate everything you've done.
It's a
So,
community deal. Everybody has to put in their time, so.
okay. We'll address that point at a later date, too. Any other council comments?
Appreciate you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry.
I've had some calls about political signs being destroyed or defaced, and I talked with the chief about it tonight, and he said he's got a message coming out in the next newsletter.
Yes.
Anyway, that doesn't have any place in this community. The other thing, do I have your authorization to pursue that structure at Lexington, or? you want someone else to do it.
Well, I think you're the qualified man for that job. Check it out and get the background for us, and then bring it back to the council, and we'll see what's feasible.
Okay.
We're good on feasibility. Good. City Administrator.
Yeah, just a few things. The cashier exhibit, we're expecting that to be delivered within about 3 weeks. There has been, we did get the easement, if you recall, and so we're looking forward to the Ewing Drive sanitary sewer project starting to gain a little bit more momentum. There's a couple of RFPs that are up on our website right now. There's an RFP for the purchase and the development of the Madison Street building. That one's due the end of October. And then there is one for a standby generator up at the rec center, and that one is coming due soon. This parking lot, just as a reminder, City Hall parking lot will be, the construction on it will be starting. Brian thought October 1 might be a date that project's gonna get going. And then if any of you saw it, it's never too early for me to put that little Santa hat back on and say that there's still plenty of time for people to sponsor trees for the winter festival downtown and for the light up parade in the downtown area. We're going to go again with the little trees, and so contact Misty.
Okay, we do have need of executive session, so, but we do have public comments.
Believe it or not, I got nothing to say.
Well, it was nice seeing you anyhow. Okay. All right, at this point, we do have need for executive session, so we will need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I move we adjourn.
Okay. Got those down? Roll call, please.
Giovanini?
Yes.
Eckhoff?
Yes.
Callis?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Hauser?
Yes.
Bradshaw? Yes. Howard?
Yes.
Willie?
Yes.
Thank you. Give us about 3 or 4 minutes.
We will expect to have action after.